If you're looking for a quiet town with great schools, an easy commute to Boise, and traffic jams that are a little bit out of the ordinary, then Middleton, Idaho might just be the place for you. So, where is Middleton? Middleton sits on the northwest side of the Boise area, about half an hour outside of Boise, right alongside the Boise River. If you're considering Middleton, then one thing you're definitely going to have to be okay with is animals. Middleton is still very rural and quite agriculturally based, even with all the current growth. So what does this mean? Well, for starters, there are several dairies around the town, and with dairies, you're going to have cattle, and with cattle is going to come the sounds and the smells of livestock. Even if it isn't commercial dairy farms, there are a lot of families who live out here in Middleton because they have smaller farms, whether it be goats, chickens, horses, anything like that. And there's really no escaping it. So if you're okay with your next door neighbor being a horse or a goat or a cow, anything like that, you're gonna love Middleton. But if that's something that you're not okay with, then I would definitely not consider Middleton. I have several friends and clients who are living in Middleton, and every time I talk with them, animals are always at the top of the conversation list about living in Middleton. I frequently see deer in Middleton, and it's not uncommon to see people get into accidents with the prevalence of deer. They love to hang out on the rivers with all the farmland. Even turkeys like to hang out in Middleton as well. Now, the larger toothy animals definitely come into play as well when you're living in Middleton. Just a couple weeks ago, I had several people reach out to me because they had seen a large mountain lion in and among their houses, around their horses, their livestock, in residential areas, and they asked me to come out there and take care of it because I had a mountain lion tag, if you catch my drift. Now, this isn't an everyday occurrence in Middleton. It happens maybe once a year, if that, but it's something to keep in mind if you're considering living in Middleton or any of the rural areas in Idaho, because mountain lions can get pretty big, and they have been known to go after livestock, dogs, horses, cats, anything like that, even people as well. I've had several close run-ins when I'm out and about with mountain lions here in Idaho. Now, like I said, mountain lions aren't going to come down into town all the time, but coyotes are definitely around and very prevalent. I have many clients and friends who live out there, and one of my best buddies, he lives out in Middleton, and he hears coyotes almost every single night from his property. So it's something to keep in mind, especially if you're wanting to have smaller animals, chickens, cats, dogs, anything like that, that living in that wild urban interface, you are going to have those kinds of things that aren't going to necessarily come up if you're living in a more urban area. But wrapping this around to more friendly animals, we definitely get a different style of traffic jams here in Middleton. Idaho traffic jam. Just like many of the other towns in the Boise, Idaho area, Middleton has been seeing quite a bit of growth, albeit not to the same extent as many of the larger towns. Growth is still growth. And with that comes road construction. This is one of the big cons that I noticed while I was out filming in Middleton, because with road construction comes a lot of heavy truck traffic. And while I was driving around out in Middleton and filming, it seemed like every other car almost on the road was a semi or a gravel truck or something along those lines, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but it can cause some issues for people who I can tell don't know how to drive around bigger trucks. The biggest thing about it is just to give them plenty of room, because they don't drive like normal cars drive. I see it very frequently where people will just cut off semis and then stop or make a turn or do that right in front of a light and expect that semi to be able to stop on a dime when they're fully loaded down with a bunch of gravel or heavy equipment and all that. And it doesn't turn out well for the cars who do that. The other thing, when you're driving behind these semis or trucks that are hauling gravel or construction debris, anything like that, don't ride up on their bumper. Give them plenty of room. They have signs on the back of them that say stay back 200 feet or 100 feet or whatever, because it's inevitable for those trucks to drop small pebbles or sand or anything like that. And I see every single week people posting on Facebook that they were driving behind a truck or around a truck and they got a rock chip in their window. And it's like, well, were you staying far enough back away from that truck? Probably not. I've never had an issue with that because I know how to drive around these trucks. So it's just something that you need to be cautious of. One of the other drawbacks of living in a smaller town like Middleton is the operating hours of the businesses in that town. Just a week ago, I had an appointment in the morning in Middleton at 8 a.m. to go let a contractor into a house. On my way out to Middleton, I noticed that the charger in my car was not working. So I was like, hey, this is an easy fix. I'll just stop at one of these stores in Middleton. There's a host of them and I'll grab a charger. I'll be on my way. Well, that was a mistake. 7:45, I pull up to the Family Dollar and get out of my car to go up in there, and they don't open until 9 o'clock. I went to the Dollar Tree, same story. Another store, Tractor Supply, same story. None of the stores open until 9 a.m. Now, this isn't inherently a bad thing. You just have to be able to anticipate that. I didn't even take it into account that all these stores open later and they don't stay open as late. Living in Middleton, you're not going to have all these big city amenities with the 24-hour shopping convenience. If you're going to do that and live in Middleton, you're going to have to drive to one of the surrounding towns to get that shopping, like Caldwell, Nampa, or even Star. I just want to pop in here and say, if you're finding any of this information useful, do yourself a huge favor and subscribe to the channel so you get updated on all the new content I'm putting out for you guys. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. When it comes to grocery shopping in Middleton, you're pretty limited. Your biggest store is going to be a Ridley's, and like I said earlier, you've got the Family Dollar, the Dollar Tree, and a couple other smaller stores like the Tractor Supply. However, if you're going to want to do any larger shopping, then you're going to have to go to one of the surrounding towns. There's the nearest Albertsons in Star to the east of Middleton. It's like a 10-minute drive. You can go just to Nampa on the south side of Middleton. Like I said, 10 to 15-minute drive where you're going to have all your major shopping and amenities down there. Costco, Home Depot, Target, Sportsman's Warehouse, Dick's Sporting Goods, all that stuff. And that's where you're also going to find a lot of the restaurants and the dining options is going to be down in that Nampa, Idaho area, or you're going to have to go over to Costco. That's not to say that there isn't dining in Middleton. However, you are pretty limited. There's a couple smaller bars, like the Chap is a good one that has some food, and there's a couple diners as well. But other than that, there isn't a lot of food variety to choose from in Middleton. So if you're looking for any of that kind of stuff, like I said, you're gonna have to go to one of the surrounding towns, whether it be Nampa or Caldwell. But the nice thing is that where Middleton is located, it's a really short drive to go to those other towns. And the same thing is going to apply to healthcare in Middleton. There's a couple smaller clinics like West Valley and Terry Riley. However, if you're needing any larger hospital needs, you're going to have to go to either Nampa or Caldwell. The nearest large hospital is going to be St. Luke's down in Nampa, which, like I said, it's over near that Costco area where all that shopping is. It's a brand new St. Luke's facility, so you're never too far away from a hospital if you need one. And if you want to take your kids out and burn some energy or just let them run, there are 8 parks scattered throughout Middleton offering a whole different sorts of amenities. Piccadilly Park, right in the center of town, is probably the most popular. It's got a really nice skate park there. It's got a playground, all that kind of stuff. And that's not even including the school's grass areas. So if you want to take your kids out, let them burn energy. If you have smaller kiddos and you maybe don't have a big enough place to do that, Middleton has definitely got you covered there too. When it comes to housing in Middleton, this is where things start to get kind of interesting. For all time, Middleton used to be one of the most affordable towns in the Boise area for housing. But in the most recent years, as home prices started going up over the entire Boise area, we started to notice a trend of people moving out towards Middleton to get a little bit more elbow room on smaller acreage for a little bit better prices. With that, we started seeing more smaller acreage properties with really nice custom homes built on them, and it's really taken off in that avenue in the last several years, which really creates quite a bit of a contrast from what Middleton has really been known for, with the smaller homes, smaller yards, more affordable properties. So we see this stark difference in between the two. Because of this, it is driving Middleton's average price higher and higher and higher, although it's difficult just to look at the average price because, like I said, it's not an even ascending kind of distribution of homes. You have a lot of smaller affordable homes, and then you have a large amount of custom homes on an acre, 2 acres, 5 acres in Middleton, which can make it a bit deceiving. But one of the most recent trends that I've noticed in Middleton has been happening in the towns to the east, Eagle and Star, the ones that are right next to the Boise River, and that is that developers are coming in and purchasing lands right next to the river that used to be gravel pits, or maybe not even gravel pits, and they're digging these ponds because they're subbing in from the river. So you start to see these really nice developments that have basically their own private pond, their waterfront. Now, we're not necessarily seeing it to the extent that I am in Star and Eagle. However, it is still happening, and I could foresee that taking place more and more with the popularity that's going on with that. However, if you want to get away from the custom side of things, you do still have a little bit of development from the production builders that we have in the rest of the towns. You can find Toll Brothers, Lennar Homes, Richmond American, and Hubble Homes. However, they're not building super to the extent that all of the towns to the east are. One of the many favorite pastimes for Middleton residents is going going to involve the Boise River and floating that in the summertime. It is a great way to cool off. You've got the trees, the really cool water. There's a big float that a lot of people like to do where they drive to the town to the east upstream from Middleton, and they'll put in at the Star Bridge and float all the way down to Middleton. Now, that is a long one. It'd probably take you the whole day to do that. If you don't want to do as long of a float, then there are several shorter floats that you can do, or even just go and chill in the water and cool off. Fishing is very popular in the Boise River, fly fishing more towards Boise, although I do know several people go fly fishing down towards Middleton as well. However, duck hunting is probably the most favorite pastime for a lot of people who live in the Middleton area on the Boise River. And that is something that you need to keep in mind. It is Idaho and people love hunting, and that's something that you need to keep in mind if you're maybe wanting to live in Middleton near the river, is that from October all the way until February, you're not going to be able to sleep in during the weekends because people are always duck hunting on the river, duck hunting, goose hunting, anything like that. And I've got a pretty funny story about this actually. On Facebook, just like of all places, there's several Middleton, Idaho pages, and a lady made a post in the Middleton, Idaho page saying that she was upset that people were hunting on the Boise River and there needs to be a limit to when they can shoot and they shouldn't be able to shoot out there. And she was upset because she was saying she moved out to Middleton next to the Boise River to be in the peace and quiet of the countryside. That's not how things go here in Idaho. We'll just leave it at that wasn't well received by the community, and she definitely got shut down. I don't know if she's still living in the area, but her neighbors probably don't like her. I don't think anybody in the community liked her in that day. But if you're wanting to live in Middleton near the Boise River, you're going to have to deal with gunshots for 5-6 months out of the year. It's just a part of living in Middleton. Now, many of the towns on the Boise River closer into Boise have access to a long green belt system that runs along the Boise River. Middleton doesn't have this. The closest thing we have there is in the River Ranch subdivision or River Walk subdivision right next to the Boise River. But other than that, that's pretty much going to be it. So if you want a green belt, and I don't anticipate seeing any green belt being connected to the towns to the east just because they are so far and there's a lot of development that needs to happen in the future before we even get to that. But if you want to get to that greenbelt kind of stuff, then you're definitely going to have to go to Star at the closest, if not into Eagle and Boise to experience that. When it comes to roads in Middleton, it's pretty easy to get around because there aren't very many roads to start with. However, all the roads are built in a grid-like pattern, so once you figure out the north, south, east, and west, it's almost impossible to get lost in Middleton. You've got a few main roads to keep in mind. Highway 44 is going to be the most important one because that will take you in and out of Middleton. However, I commonly use Purple Sage and Willis Road to do my east to west traveling. However, this is one of the big cons of the road system in Middleton, is that it seriously lacks east to west roads that take you in and out of town. You're pretty much going to be relegated to Highway 44. As for north and south roads in Middleton, you've got a handful of them. Middleton Road is probably the most traveled, taking you in and out of town over the Boise River. Then you've got Old Highway 30 and the interstate west of town. As for schools in Middleton, you've got Middleton High School and Middleton Middle School along with the elementary school, and they are very highly rated schools. I know several people who have gone to those schools or in those schools really like that. In fact, I've known people who moved out to Middleton to have their kids in that Middleton High School. Middleton High School is growing very rapidly. In fact, I think it is one of the first schools in the Boise area to move into the 6A classification because it's growing so fast. One of the most commonly questions I get asked about Middleton is pertaining to the weather. What's the weather like in Middleton? Is it the same as the rest of the Boise, Idaho area? In general, yes. The temperatures are going to be pretty much within a degree or two, but the big difference that you need to understand between the rest of the Boise area and Middleton is going to be the wind. And in order to really understand this, we have to look at the topography of the Boise, Idaho area. The entire Treasure Valley is nestled in the Snake River Basin, which makes a pretty flat, rolling hill area, which has been great for settling. It's bordered by mountains on almost all sides. On the east and northeast side of the valley, you have the Bitterroot Mountains, and on the south and southwest side, you have the Owyhee Mountains, which create a little oasis from extreme weather. However, as you look directly along the Snake River, there aren't any mountains or natural landmarks to stop wind, so you essentially have this huge wind tunnel that runs from Oregon on the northwest down along the Snake River all the way into eastern Idaho. Because of the topography and location of Middleton, it does see quite a bit more wind, but since there are a lot of rolling hills, you see quite a bit of differences. And if you're on the top of the hill, you're probably going to have a lot of wind right next there to the interstate, versus if you're in the bottom of the hill or below that, you're really not going to have as much wind. In addition to this, just a cool thing about Middleton is you're getting farther away from the rest of the Treasure Valley. This summer, I went to my buddy's house in Middleton and we got to watch the Aurora Borealis, the northern lights from Middleton. Really cool, less light pollution, but weather-wise, you're going to see about the same in Middleton. It might actually be a little bit warmer. I've noticed Middleton is a little bit warmer than the rest of the Boise area. However, with that, you're going to have wind depending where you are in Middleton. One of the many cool things about Middleton is that since it's on the edge of the valley, it's adjacent to thousands of acres of BLM land where people go out and enjoy it all the time, whether it's taking your dirt bike out, your side-by-side, your 4x4, and enjoying one of the many trails that are out there. But one of the favorite pastimes for a lot of people is they like to go out there and target practice. So while I was filming, I took my black powder out there, my muzzler, to practice a little bit for a deer hunt I have coming up here in November, as I'm switching gears from a rifle elk hunt in the fall where I harvested a phenomenal bull. Are the animals or the wind a big enough con for you to consider not living in Middleton? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, I'm IsaacCrace, your third generation Idaho realtor.